along those lines, you can always send a question to your confirmation email that you got to register with the link to attend today. Uh, all of our guys. All right, I am about to introduce one of our sponsors, EddieZ. And I think John mentioned, the super trading computers and what you're working with. So smart lead in to our sponsor, EddieZ, because he provides cutting edge computers that are optimized for traders. So you may not know, but EddieZ is an industry leader in high power trading computers for traders in all markets. And he was introduced to the trading pits at the age of 10. Yes, 10 years old. His dad was a floor trader on the New York Mercantile Exchange, and he took EddieZ to work in the pits. So he's been trading since he was a teenager. He started on the floor, on the New York Mercantile Exchange floor, the very first Monday after he graduated high school. So, Eddie, are you mic'd up?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yep. I'm going to take controls here with your permission.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
All right. I think I'm in control.
You are.
You are good to go. We are here.
Ask my wife if that's true, but
Yeah,
doubt it is.
that's debatable, right? Probably can do the drum roll. Eddie, thank you for joining us today. We'll be standing by in the wings if you have any technical issues. Otherwise, take it away.
Awesome. So first of all, I just want to say thanks and express a little gratitude here to Raleigh and Pat and the whole gang here at Westmark Trading for having me here. Market Madness. I feel extremely honored to be amongst such smart people. And I hope you guys are learning a lot so far, because it certainly is a very, very confusing time in the markets here with the pandemic hopefully coming to an end, fingers crossed. Maybe these vaccines last a little longer than the projected 3 months they're talking about, but we're all very hopeful. We got this stimulus package. We got cryptocurrencies in the world, all kinds of crazy things going on. So considering everything going on, we're truly living in a new world, and there's a lot more people trading the markets these days and a lot more people trading from home. And today's presentation is going to be about determining if your computer is fast enough, truly fast enough to trade with. And more importantly, how to optimize your computer setup so you can be successful really trading from home. Excuse me. So before we get started, gang, if you have questions at all, go ahead and type them into the question panel, the chat panel, and my man Raleigh will gather them up, and towards the end of the webinar, we'll go over as many of them as we can. Excuse me, sorry about that. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to cover today. So today we're going to talk about the biggest trading computer misconception and what it means for your trading. Then I'm going to show you with a demonstration exactly how to determine if your computer is truly fast enough to trade with. And there's an exact formula for it. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a minimum checklist, a minimum technology requirements checklist so you can be successful trading. Now, everything that's presented today during this time is discussed in our book. It's called The Complete Guide to Trading Computers. And every single person in this room is going to be sent one automatically. So that's a cool thing. We're going to automatically send you that. There's nothing you need to opt in for. Everything we talk about today, plus there's a whole lot more information that you will see there. So just very, very quickly, I just want to talk about how I got started with computers. So I'm going to fly you back in my time machine. That's a pretty funny image if you're as old as I am, but I'm flying you back in my time machine to about 1980. I was 11 years old, and a friend of mine got this machine right here. This is called the Apple II. And back in those days, this was the very, very beginning of the personal computer world. So my buddy got this Apple II, and he brings me over to his house to see it. And he and his brother had set this thing up in the most amazing fashion. They had actually connected it to a telephone, and people were calling into the telephone one by one call at a time from all over the world, and leaving these long form text messages on it. And the computer was scrolling these text messages across this black and green screen. And what my buddy had done is he had set up something called an electronic bulletin board, and people could connect into this machine one by one, post their messages. And in this case, the messages were about comic books. And this electronic bulletin board was really the predecessor of what we now call a website. Now, for me at 11 years old, I thought this was like the coolest thing in the world. So when I went home that evening from my buddy's house, I immediately began a campaign to my parents to get me a computer for the holidays. But what showed up under my tree was not an Apple II. It was this machine right here called a Commodore VIC-20. So it doesn't look a lot like a computer, looks a little bit more like a toy. I rip open the box, I set it up, I started trying to load programs. And this computer, the way you loaded programs, you had this hard drive. But if you look here, this was your hard drive. The hard drive was actually a little cassette player, and the programs were stored on cassettes like we used to listen to music on back in the 80s. And these old things would take 45 minutes to load up a program. And most of the time, they didn't even load the program correctly. All you got was error messages. And when you did load up a program, this machine didn't do anything like my friend's computer did, and I was super disappointed. So when my folks went to bed that night, I got a screwdriver out of Dad's toolbox, and I pried this machine open to figure out what was wrong with it. Why was this thing so underpowered? And why didn't it do any of the things that my friend's computer did? And that was the moment where my passion and my interest for making computers bigger, stronger, and faster really came from. That's the moment it was born, and I've been a computer nerd ever since. Now, very quickly, I just want to tell you a little bit about my Wall Street and my trading experience. So I was pretty fortunate. My father was a floor trader on the New York Mercantile Exchange. And ever since I can remember, I would go to work with my dad on days I had off from school. I'm talking really young, like 9, 10, 11 years old. My dad would take me to work with him. And I always loved going down to that floor with him because the energy on the Merc, as they call it, now they call it the NYMEX, the energy on the Merc was awesome. Men carrying on, cursing, behaving badly. And I just always loved going. But as I got older and I'd go to work with him, I started asking lots of questions like, what's going on down here? How does this all work? So what my father did was sit me down and teach me how to draw something called point and figure charts, keep track of the markets, watch the ticks in the crude oil market, and draw these charts that were called point and figure charts. And he explained to me that if you could find very specific patterns in these charts, you could predict where the price of crude, and he was also trading gasoline futures, where the price was going next. And that's how he made his living. Again, I thought this was one of the coolest things in the world. And I knew at a very early age that Wall Street was where I wanted to be. So what I decided to do was work on this floor the minute after I graduated high school. In fact, like the Monday after I graduated high school, I started as a clerk on the exchange. And I worked every summer, every Christmas break, every spring break, anytime I had off from school, I was down working on that floor. When I graduated from college, I did not go work on the floor. I actually became drawn into becoming a stockbroker. And so instead I went into stocks. And I was a top producer for about 17 years. And this number is wrong. I'm actually up to 34 years of Wall Street experience. So career-wise, this is all I really know. The very first trading computer I built, kind of a funny story. So the first trading computer I built was when I finally got my Series 7 license in the early 90s. And I started this firm. This firm has this big boardroom, and everybody is sitting in these two-man cubicles, and every broker has to share a single, essentially was a computer, but it was kind of like a Quotron, as we called it back then. And so I had to share this machine with this guy next to me. And this guy next to me had been there like 4 or 5 years. This is kind of what these screens look like. We didn't have those black and green screens by then, where they were already color. But this guy had been there for 4 or 5 years, and he decided he was going to dominate 85% of the screen real estate with his stock symbols. And because I was the rookie, he only gave me 5 spaces to put up 5 stock symbols. So as you can probably imagine, I was pretty frustrated, and I marched into the branch manager's office and I said, look, I can do surgery on this machine. I can add another screen and I'll be able to see more symbols. And I was lucky. He was open to the idea. He let me do it. And so that was really my first trading computer. And as my career as a stockbroker advanced, I was constantly building and upgrading these machines, making them bigger, stronger, and faster, able to handle more and more monitors. And anytime any new technology or new operating system came out, I was buying the new equipment. So I was this guy with the 4 big old CRTs on his desk. It was a lot of real estate to use those big monitors like that. But it really wasn't until 2009, many years later, that a buddy of mine, he pointed me to a Google search of the term trading computers. And when I Googled this term and I looked at all the companies offering products in this area, I was appalled at what I saw. I felt like traders, as in people like you and me, were being taken advantage of in terms of their lack of knowledge. And look, I get it. I know traders. We just want a big, strong, fast machine. But we don't need to necessarily know everything that's going on under the hood. We just need to know that it's going to be fast and it's going to do exactly what we need it to do. So I made it my mission at that point to educate traders on the technology in trader speak, in language that all traders can easily understand. And that's why we're here today, to educate you guys. So why are trading computers needed? So people ask me all the time, can I just go down to Best Buy or Costco, buy a computer off the shelf? And it's a good question. But what it really boils down to is something I call the trader's biggest misconception. So what most traders don't realize or don't understand is the sheer quantity of data that is pouring into your machine at the same time. It's like a fire hose of real-time data that is flowing directly into your machine. So let me give you an analogy, and let's just kind of talk about it a little bit here. Think about when you go to Netflix or you go to start a movie. Have you ever seen this? The little circle. These days, it might look like a little round spinning wheel, or sometimes now we see little dots. That's something called buffering. So what your computer is actually doing as it connects to Netflix or YouTube or some video streaming service is that it's taking in a giant stream of real-time data, a high definition stream of data. And your computer's processor is turning that data into the gorgeous high definition picture we are now all used to seeing. The machine is actually gathering up all this data and putting it all together into a perfectly stitched together image before it shows it to you. It wants to make sure it has enough data to show you a perfect picture. And again, that's called buffering. But here's the problem when it comes to trading. We take in a very similar level of data, a very similar stream of data, similar and in some cases greater than a high definition movie in terms of the size of the data stream. But we have no time to buffer that data. That data has to be spot on. So your computer has to turn all that data into charts and to indicators in spot on real time. Your prices have to be spot on to the nanosecond, because if your computer can't handle all of the data coming in, a bottleneck will develop, and what's being displayed on your screen will be slightly stale, just like a little bit slightly old. It will be like a fraction of a second, and it could even be up to several seconds old. And so the prices that you're seeing on your screen and your indicators might be a fraction of a second old. And so when you put orders in to buy and sell, you're going to get executions, price fills that don't match the price you expected. And this is called slippage. So imagine you put an order in to buy Apple at $117.20. And then 3 seconds later, you get filled at $117.90. It's like a 70-cent price difference. This is what I mean by slippage. Let me give you another example. So I know a lot of folks watch CNBC, and we're all working from home these days, right? Because of the pandemic, we're all at home, we're using the internet. Have you ever noticed that when CNBC has these panel discussions, there's a little delay from when someone stops talking until the next guy starts talking? Or many times they wind up talking on top of each other. That's because of that little internet delay and that voice over IP delay. It's a signal processing issue. As traders, we can't have any delay in our market data. That's the time delay I'm talking about. And that's what can happen if your trading computer is not fast enough and powerful enough to take all of that real-time data, turn it into your prices, your charts, and your indicators in spot on real time. And that's what I really call the trader's biggest misconception, not realizing how much data you're taking in, that fire hose of data. So again, when you put in a market order and you get filled at a price that you didn't expect, that is called slippage. And if it's happened to you, you've probably done this before, maybe even worse. Have you ever yelled at the screen, maybe cursed at it? That's what happens when you don't have a powerful enough machine, and man, it can be really frustrating. Kind of like taking a loss in a way, can be really frustrating. And you know what? And I'm sure a lot of folks in this room have gone through this before. When you get triggered psychologically, when you're in the middle of trading because of a bad trade or a bad execution, like in the case of slippage, the truth is, if you get triggered psychologically while you're trading, you tend to make a series of bad decisions in a row, and it can really cascade out of control. So the last thing you need is your computer giving you a hard time. So, when it comes to trading, there are so many other things to think about while you're trading. So your computer hardware needs to not be one of them. Your computer hardware really needs to be spot on. So let's get to the part I'm sure everybody here has been waiting for. Is your computer fast enough for trading? All right, so let's determine if your computer is truly fast enough to trade with. Now, the most important variable in determining if your computer is fast enough to trade with is your computer's processor, which is also known as the CPU, which also stands for Central Processing Unit. The processor is what takes in that giant fire hose, that giant stream of data, turns it into charts, graphs, and indicators all in real time. So to figure out this formula of what makes a lightning fast trading computer, the most important variable is going to be the processor. The processor is really the engine of the computer. So let me just pull up this Google window here for fun. By the way, I'm going to show you how to figure out what processor you have, exactly what processor is in your current machine. If you you can feel free to try to figure this out while you're watching the webinar. You can kind of walk through it with me. I'll try to go slow. If I go too fast for any reason, I promise this is explained in the complete guide to trading computers, which you're all going to get a copy of in the next few days. So here's what I want you to do. In Windows 10, go ahead and click the Start button like this, and just start typing the words system information. System information. You see it right here? It'll start to auto-populate if you type in the words system information. So this screen is essentially built into Windows, and it shows you all of the hardware and your operating system that's built into your machine. Now, if you're using Windows 7 or Windows 8, which unfortunately I know there's still a few folks doing that, what you're going to do is click this Start button, and right above the Start button, like right where my arrow is, you should see a search box, and you can type in the words system information. And again, it'll start auto-populating and you can click on it. Now you're going to get a window that looks like this, system information. So what I want you to do, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit here, is I want you to go down to about the 10th line down right here where it says processor. And I want you to write down all of the numbers and letters of your processor. So in my case, I have the AMD Ryzen 9 3950X. And I can let it go at that. You don't need this other information here. Now, I'm going to jot that down. Go ahead and write down what processor you have. Now go down to about the 27th line. Not sure if it's exactly 27. Right here where it says installed physical memory. Now, in my case, I have 64 gigs of RAM. Yours might be different. Go ahead and jot that down. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so you know your computer's processor. You know how much RAM you have. The next thing we need to know is if this processor is fast enough for trading. And again, that processor is the engine of the computer. So I like to use the analogy of a car engine. The more horsepower a car has, the faster the car is. So what we want to go do now is look how much horsepower our processors have. And the best place to do this is a website called CPUbenchmark.net. CPUbenchmark.net. You can see it right here. I'm just going to hit enter. CPUbenchmark.net. I should have a slide for it, but I didn't. So this is a pretty cool website. So what this website is, don't click anything yet. Let me walk you through it. What this website is an independent company that has developed something called benchmarking software. And literally people from all over the world have already downloaded and run this software on the computer. Essentially what this software does is force your computer to run a whole series of formulas and algorithms and force the computer to come up with the solutions. And then it measures how fast your computer comes up with those solutions. But the nice part about this site is we don't have to run the software, because literally over 1 million systems have already been tested and have already run the software. So what we can do is just look at their database and find out what our benchmark score is. Or think of your benchmark score as how much horsepower your computer has. So the next thing we're going to do is click for your CPU model. So go ahead and click this button right here, big button, and then we go ahead and start typing in our CPU. In my case, I have the AMD Ryzen 9 39, what was it, the 50, I think it was, what I jot down here, 3950X. So I'm going to click Find CPU here. And there it is. It's going to show it to me right here in yellow. And this number right here under CPU mark or CPU benchmark, 39,250. So that number probably doesn't mean anything to you right now. So I'm going to tell you what it means. The absolute minimum benchmark score for trading as a trader, the minimum number is 12,000. But the main thing I want you to realize is that the lower the number, the higher your risk of slippage, the higher your risk of a bottleneck of some sort, the higher the risk of your computer having issues while trading. So, again, if your processor's benchmark score is 12,000 or less, you're going to have a high risk of slippage. You have a risk of seeing data on your screen that's slightly stale, maybe less than a second stale, slightly old, but it could lead to some unexpected trades. The lower the number, the higher that risk of slippage. Now, on the opposite side of that, the farther above 12,000 you are, the more useful life you will have from your machine, and you'll have more time before obsolescence. And there are actually some new high-end processors on the market that benchmark over 50,000. And a machine like that should give you 3 to 5 years, probably closer to 5 years before it's obsolete. So let me just go back to Google for our next test. So that's the most important, the most heavily weighted formula, heavily weighted variable in the formula of having the ultimate trading computer is your processor. Now, the next most heavily weighted variable in this formula is your internet speed. And so we're going to go to a website here called speedtest.net. Now go ahead and let the site load. I have some advertising blocking here. Sometimes there's a lot of advertising on this page. Now, so just follow along with me. Don't get sucked into clicking on anything. So it's going to give us 3 data points. I'm going to click the go button now. It's going to give us 3 data points: the ping, the download speed, and the upload speed. So I happen to be running on AT&T, and it's connecting to my closest node. So now the ping reading, which you can see here, this 2 milliseconds, is a measure of your modem sending a signal to your closest major node or closest major transfer point, essentially the largest and closest major server that your network is connected to, and getting an echo back. And we want that ping to be less than 50 milliseconds. So think of this. Think of when you make a phone call. The ping is how fast someone on the other end answers the phone and says hello. So it's not actually having the conversation back and forth. It's just that very, very first point of contact. And what we want to see is this ping be below 50 milliseconds. That's very important. 50 milliseconds on the ping. Anything above 50 milliseconds, and you may create some kind of latency, and it's going to create a delay and potentially a problem with slippage while you're trading. Now, the next most important figure is your download speed. So you can see in my case, my download speed on average is 894 megabits per second. So for our purposes, we want to see a minimum download speed of 50 megabits per second. I used to use some lower numbers here, but I really feel in this day and age, most of us have access to higher speed internet access and broadband. And we want to look for an upload speed of at least 25 megabits per second, and we want that to be higher. My case is 914. So just to go over that again, let's just quickly bring up a checklist for you guys. You want a benchmark score of at least 12,000, the higher the better. And anything under this, you're definitely going to run into that issue we call slippage. And I just don't want that to happen because it's so frustrating and it's going to cost you money. The second most important thing is the internet speed. And again, we want that ping to be less than 50 milliseconds, single digits if possible. We want our download greater than 100 megabits per second. I think I said 50 before, but we really would prefer 100 or more. I mean, look, don't cheap out to save 50 or $75 a month. If you can get a gigabit, which is what I pay for with AT&T, definitely get it. I mean, it's worth the extra money. It's important to have that. We're we're professional traders here. We want to have the best possible tools. And if you're trying to save $50 or $75 a month, that's a huge mistake. And look, I recognize that folks all over the country have different access to different speeds, but try to get as much as you can. Now, this right here is the RAM. RAM is your random access memory, which essentially means the amount of memory your computer has full access to when the computer is on, when it's functioning. That is the total available RAM your processor can make use of and load the programs into and actively run those programs out of. Now, if you're a trader like me, this variable did not used to be so heavily weighted. But as time has gone on, the computers have gotten more powerful. The software has become so much more powerful. So for example, if you're running like Tastyworks or TradeStation or NinjaTrader, and I have clients who are running sometimes 3 or 4 different trading applications at the same time. The more things you're running at the same time, the more RAM you need. And I've noticed as time has gone on, we're opening more and more programs at the same time. If you're running Zoom and you're running trading applications, you're going to use a ton of RAM. If you use GoToWebinar, if you have like 20 tabs open, if you're running some of these crypto trading applications, which run in the browser. So I have to admit, I've been trading some crypto over the last 6 months. If you run Kraken is one of the ones I use. There's another one I use. Coinbase I've used, but not so much. I'm trying to Binance.us. These charting programs are running in your browser, and they use a tremendous amount of memory. So if you have multiple tabs open with multiple applications, and you're running like Zoom or GoToWebinar, you need as much RAM as that computer will take. So 16 gigs really is the minimum. Now, if you use up all of you have like so many things open, and you wind up using up all of your RAM available on your machine, you're going to create a very severe bottleneck. The computer is going to try to use some of the memory on your hard drive to make up for it, and your machine is just going to feel like it's in quicksand. And then, of course, lastly, gang, we want to make sure we're running Windows 10. I know not everybody is the biggest fan of Microsoft, and certainly understandable with the track record they've had with operating systems. But Windows 10 is good. It gets the job done. And I think we just really just have to deal with it. Like, I think if you're trying to trade on your phone, that can be pretty challenging. If you're trying to trade on a Chromebook that doesn't have Windows OS, you're not going to be able to download a lot of different programs. So that is a Trading Computers checklist. Now, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. And because of that, I put together a very special offer for the people who are here at the Market Madness event here, because what I'm about to show you is not on, it is not on my publicly facing site, which is easytradingcomputers.net. This is on westmarktrading.com/EddieZ. This is a special offer just for you guys for being here today. And my appreciation, of course, to Pat, Raleigh, and the gang at Westmark. So I put together 2 special deals for you guys. This is going to expire on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I have a desktop and a laptop. I'm just going to go over them real fast because some cool key features here. So the first one is the Super Trader GT Mega Display. And as you can see here, it comes with 6 monitors. So a couple of key points about this, if you feel it's time to upgrade, maybe you're not up to speed in terms of benchmark score, this machine features Intel's latest i7 10700 chip, which benchmarks at 17,750. So definitely is fast enough to trade with. And we've included a number of severe upgrades here. So for example, we have 32 gigs of RAM. It's already set up with 32 gigs of RAM. It's already set up with a 1 terabyte solid state hard drive. So solid state hard drives are the latest in hard drive technology. If you're using an old computer, an older laptop, there's probability you're still on one of those old school spinning disk hard drives. Those things are really subject to failure. So think about your phone for a second, like your iPhone or your Android. How many times have you dropped that thing? I know for me, I tend to drop mine pretty often, and like miraculously, it never breaks. Like I never lose anything, and it always seems to be working. That's because inside of your phone, you have something called flash memory chips. That's what a solid state hard drive is. It's a set of flash memory chips. So we've already upgraded this to a huge 1 terabyte drive for you. This machine is already set up with 6 monitor support. And the key features here, you can buy it with or without the monitors. We have a 6 monitor package or a 4 monitor package, totally up to you. But the key thing I want to draw to your attention is we do have a 5-year warranty. Nobody else offers that. Look, we have your back at EddieZ Trading Computers. As my team builds these machines, we source the highest quality parts, and we do our best to build them to perfection. We also include lifetime technical support. These are my guys. They only deal with traders. It's not like if you buy a Dell or an HP and you call tech support and your call gets routed to some other place on the planet where they may speak English, but it's a little bit different English than you and I speak. My gang is trained to take care of traders. They know different trading platforms. They understand the technology deeply here. Now, in addition, we have a very special new laptop. It's called the Excalibur 17.3-inch laptop. Scroll down here. This new laptop is really neat. It features AMD's Ryzen 7 4800H processor, which benchmarks at 19,100. AMD has done a tremendous job in bringing new processors to market. In fact, especially on the laptop, well, actually both the desktop and the laptop side of things, I actually think they bring more value to the market than Intel does anymore. Now, I know Intel announced some news yesterday, so maybe that'll change. But you get a lot of bang for the buck out of AMD products these days. Again, this is also fully upgraded. This is a very fast processor. If you're trading on a laptop, I would bet when you pulled up your benchmark score, it wasn't anything close to 19,000. Most laptops are optimized for miniaturization, not so much power and speed. This laptop features a AMD Radeon 5600M video card. Lots of laptops don't have a video card. They use the processor to do the work as well, and that's a mistake if you're trading on a laptop. This is also upgraded with a 1 terabyte SSD, and on the laptops, we do offer the lifetime technical support, but only a 1-year warranty, only because they're mobile. People tend to drop them and bump them around. So that is the laptop. So again, just go to westmarktrading.com/EddieZ. That'll take you directly to this page. Go ahead and bookmark it. So you can bookmark it right here if you're using Google Chrome. Add bookmark and bookmark it, and then you can come back to it later. Raleigh, I hear you. I feel you.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, fantastic presentation, an
Thank
awful
you.
lot of information there. And I love those tools that you shared with people, quick ways to be able to see what's in your system, and then the website to go for benchmarking and how to do speed testing. But there were some questions that came up,
Yeah.
Eddie, and here's some of the ones that I thought that were kind of interesting. Number one, and I don't know whether it's because of the pandemic or what, but what's going on with video cards? I mean, it seems like video cards, I mean, the pricing has gone through the roof. Is there just is it a supply demand situation? What's happening there?
Yeah. Video cards. In all of my years building computers, I've never seen this before. So, you guys, I'm sure everyone in this room is aware that Bitcoin and the crypto market has gone crazy. Well, what's happened? We've kind of had like a perfect storm where crypto is going crazy, and there are other coins besides Bitcoin that really want to use like gaming graphics cards that we normally would put in a trading computer, to do the mining, what's called the coin mining, and to the maintaining of these um, essentially decentralized networks of computers. And that has led to this incredible shortage of video cards. It is so hard for us to get video cards, and what we are able to get, they've gone up in price by 3 and 4 times.
Good Lord.
And then when you stack on that the pandemic, we're not getting any well, we weren't getting any cargo being shipped by airplane from China. And look, let's be honest, as much as we would love to have all these components manufactured here, they're coming from China and from Asia overall. They just, even though Nvidia is a US based company, their manufacturing is not here. And hey, maybe Intel's coming back to Arizona. They announced that yesterday. That'd be pretty cool. But we just aren't getting the level of cargo. And then the minute it gets here, it's completely sold out. And I've never seen a shortage like we've seen in the last like 3 months. Fortunately, I've been able to stockpile what we need, hopefully, until we get to the other side of this. I don't know if I have. I mean, I can't even, every day I look on our suppliers' websites hoping that inventory shows up, but it's really like a perfect storm. And then, I mean, I'm sure everyone has heard in this room, like some car manufacturers have had to delay building cars because of silicon and other chip shortages.
Right.
So I don't know if this is going to be an ongoing thing. I certainly hope not. And then, people are getting stimulus checks. We've been incredibly busy. So many people are trading from home, upgrading their machines. So computers are flying off the shelves. So that, I think it's all those things put together
Put
with the
together.
video. Yeah. Uh,
And we did have, looking at some other questions here, Tom basically asks a good question. He says, how does the processor with turbo boost up to 4.1 gigahertz impact the CPU benchmark? Is that taken into consideration depending
yes.
on the processor type?
Yes. So turbo boost, or what's called hyper threading, is taken into consideration with that benchmark score. And you do want to use those. You are automatically turned on by default. The programming is already built into the processing chips. Both AMD and Intel have their own versions of turbo boost these days. Now, that's kind of interesting because there are some trading platforms that will only use they won't use turbo boost or what's called hyper threading. So like if you use MT4, for example, that's only going to use one core of an 8 core uh, processor. I mean, I know I'm getting a little technical for most people, but most of the newer software will take advantage of all the cores and all the processing power and speed that's there. It's
And they
like,
do, and as you said, they do that automatically for you.
yes, they do that automatically. They do
Uh,
that automatically.
we have several people here that live outside the United States and are wondering about international shipping to places like Canada, for example.
Yeah. So we ship all over the world. We've shipped to Asia. We've shipped to the Middle East. We've shipped to even a couple of different countries in Africa. If you're in Canada, do realize that you will pay your province's sales tax. So I know, like, I think Ontario is like 14%, and then there's an forget which one is like 6%. But so, and FedEx holds your package hostage until you pay that. Um, in the United States, we only charge sales tax in 6 states. So I'm very happy about that. Up to this point, we haven't had to collect sales tax nationwide. So I'm pretty happy about that.
So I think it's fair to say that, your staff at Easy Trading can answer those questions when people call,
Yeah.
about what is the shipping and things of that nature. But the point is that you basically will ship anywhere.
Yes.
There just may be
As
some
long as it's not
requirements.
on, yeah, like, there are some restrictions that the U.S. government, like
Cuba, North Korea,
yes,
Iran,
yeah,
places like that. Okay.
those are the 3. We don't get a lot of calls from those places.
Hey, so here's a left field one, or maybe
Sure.
not so left field. What about all those people that have Apple computers? What's
Yeah,
going on with Apple and trading, or what are your thoughts there?
yeah. So that's not out of left field. I actually get that question a lot, and it's a good question because Apple's become very, very popular. Their Macs are very popular. Obviously, the iPhone is popular. It's got this cult following. I mean, it has a nice operating system. It's very intuitive to use, tends to be very stable. Sometimes people feel it's more stable even than the Windows operating environment, which was probably true a few years ago, but really isn't true anymore. But here's the thing, and we can thank our buddies Steve Jobs and Tim Cook for this. Apple, over the years, their strategy has been to control all of the hardware and all of the software. They never really wanted to reveal their source code of their operating system to allow software manufacturers to design software for Apple. So that's why you don't see like Ninja running on Apple. You don't see TradeStation running on Apple. Uh, for many of the brokers, the only way to access their desktop apps, if you have an Apple computer, is by using either web-based applications that run in a browser, like I was talking about before, which can be a little slow and clunky and void of some of the features we're used to as traders. And then the other way to do it is by loading a program called Boot Camp or this other program called Parallels. And the problem is that once you load up, essentially what you're doing is you're loading up Windows on an Apple computer. The problem is once you load that up onto your Apple computer and then you install your trading applications, it uses up almost all of the resources on that Apple machine. And the computer tends to really bog down, not be able to get the work done, not be able to show all your quotes and your data and your charts in real time. And you're going to have slippage. I mean, I hear this every day. Another thing about Apple computers, if you want a computer that they do have some computers that have some pretty decent benchmark scores, but they tend to be so expensive, like $3,500.
Mhm.
And again, you still have to install Parallels or Boot Camp to make it work. So in my opinion, and from my experience, Apples just really don't work for trading. I've met many customers who use the Apple, the Mac, MacBook Air, and those things for all their browsing, all their email, Facebook. And then they have a PC that they use just for trading.
Yeah, and along those lines, it's probably worth it, depending on what you have, that you should have a dedicated computer for trading.
Yeah,
And
I think
particularly if your numbers are a little low, I think that's what I'm hearing you saying. That should not be your multitask computer. You know.
exactly. I mean, hey, so like if you're running Zoom is pretty resource intensive, especially if you have your trading apps open. So if you had like maybe your Apple or you have a MacBook Air or something on the side where you're running your Zoom and you're checking your email, and then you just had a dedicated trading computer, that's one way to go about it. Or uh, some of our or all of our machines will be able to do all of that multitasking for you with just one machine.
Okay. Another question here has to do with the internet. And, I guess the thing is here is what affects the speed that you get at your house? And is there anything people can do inside their home environment to fully leverage the internet that they have?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and it's really a good question because everywhere in the country, and at least in the United States, I'm sure it's true of the world, you're just subject to whatever is available in your neighborhood. I was reading an article the other day that says there's quite a few places that are running a full gigabit per second speed now in the United States, which is phenomenal. I'm so
Yes.
happy to hear that. But there are still a lot of rural areas where you might be subject to no internet connectivity. So you have to use like your phone, or you have to use satellite internet, which tends to not be consistent, have some weather issues, connectivity issues. I know our friend Elon Musk is trying to build out a satellite cluster for high-speed internet from satellites. That could be a form of a game changer. And I actually think that within the next 3 to 5 years, even 5G, as kind of controversial as it is, potentially is a huge game changer for the internet worldwide, as long as we don't have to wear tinfoil hats. But I can tell you, in my neighborhood, I'm on AT&T fiber. I pay for a gigabit, and as you guys saw, it runs pretty quickly. I also keep Xfinity as a backup. I'm actually paying for both providers. And the reason is, in my neighborhood, my cell phone signal as a backup, the cell phone signal is so weak in my house, drives me insane. Even though I'm in Fort Lauderdale, I'm in a city. I think we're right near the only 30-foot hill that's in South Florida, and for some reason it's blocking the signal to my phone. The phone tethering to a phone is okay as a backup. Most 3G is not going to get it done. 4G is really not that fast. As a backup in an emergency, it's fine. I don't have that. I can't access it. So I actually have Xfinity as a backup. Now, another thing that happens with people is, so like I'm in Florida and we have very wicked weather in the summer, lots of lightning strikes, lots of thunderstorms. And I've had on several occasions Comcast come out here. Comcast runs Xfinity because of a lightning strike. And lightning strikes have taken out my modems. They've actually taken out the wires in my home to a point where, like, a couple of splitters up in my attic got destroyed by a lightning strike, and a guy was up there crawling around in the attic changing out the splitters to get the full speed again. So that last mile, like from the pedestal or the telephone pole outside of your house, is really important. So if you've ever been connected to the internet, this is a problem I was experiencing when that happened. I was getting these little bursts where I use TradeStation, and the quotes were coming in fine, and then they'd pause, and then they'd come in fine, like bursts of data on and off. And that was when I realized it had something more to do with the wiring and the splitters.
Okay.
So that last mile is pretty important. So if you're having some weird activity at your house where you have everything's up to date, you got a modern router or / modem, you get paying for high-speed internet, sometimes it's that wiring just needs to be changed.
And to that point, Eddie, I'm going to assume you would agree with what I'm about to say, which is, wherever possible, hardwire your computer to the internet.
Yes. It is incrementally faster to have a network cable connected to the back of your modem or router. It's also more secure. It could be on a private network that's connected than to be wireless out there. It used to be more of an issue to be wireless in the house. And of course, the further you are away from that wireless connection, the more that speed drops. So just be aware of that. That's a good point.
You bet. Well, Eddie, we've covered a lot of information in this hour. You've done a tremendous job. I think you've educated us all, on the critical aspect of, it's the tool we use to trade. I mean,
Exactly.
that is our tool
It's
right
your
there.
window to the market.
Yeah, there you go. It's the window to the market. I think I'll use
Good. Awesome.
that. So once again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you being here. And also thank you so much for being one of our
Thanks for
sponsors
having
for
me.
this event.
I'm looking forward to come seeing you in concert one of
Me
these days when this
too.
Uh,
pandemic goes
Yeah.
away.
yeah, oh my gosh, we'll have to have a big meetup someplace. That'll
Yeah,
be
that'd be
great.
awesome, man. I'd love that. All the
Thanks,
best, you
Eddie.
guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, folks. That was EddieZ with EddieZ Computers, Trading Computers, and once again, their special offer for their desktop and their laptop computers that they put together. Free shipping in the United States, lifetime technical support, finance terms, the whole works. If you've got a question about your system or you're thinking about it, give them a call. Talk to them about what you've got going on. And I know the computer that I have to trade with, I got from his company, and it just runs great. It's a screaming machine. I've had a couple of issues. I've had it for over 5 years, and their tech people have taken care of me. They do a fantastic job. So it was delightful having Eddie on board with us, and I'm one of many, but I highly recommend their services to you. And with that,